So we are back. The Hockey Hour boys are not live on the air, but we're live on the internet, I guess I could say. And we're gonna go over a couple things today. It won't be too long of a episode, probably half an hour, 45 minutes. There's just not enough information right now, but we're gonna go over recapping last night's game. We're gonna start. We're gonna talk about the defense, Schmidt and Myers, their struggles, and we're going to start a couple new segments where we don't want to come across as arrogant people who knows everything about hockey, so we're gonna start doing a segment where we do know a lot because we're all perfect, but
Kind of.
I
Me
mean,
and Austin, maybe, but not so much you.
yeah, we 2/3 of us know a lot, so we just got to humble it down a little bit. So I thought we'd do a segment where we talk about what we were right about and what we were wrong about. It's going to be hard to find the wrong about part, but we'll also do a hot takes at the end where we say something that's catastrophic but realistic. So yeah, we'll do that. I
yeah,
think going forward, that'll be good.
yeah,
So
we'll try and find some ways to get them in, see if we can think of some other segments, little things like that, just to spice it up so we're not doing the same old, It's good.
exactly. All right, we'll start with a recap. I liked our game a lot. I didn't expect that. I expected between the beer league hockey team and I expected to still see a beer league hockey team out there. That was pretty good. I thought Winnipeg's not even a bad team. Like you can't say, oh, we played Ottawa. We didn't. Winnipeg's pretty good this year. Like Hellebuck wasn't great, but he wasn't bad, and we played structured. Like you could see there's a system in place, there's a structure in place. And when I say Green's a good coach, that's exactly what I mean right there, that type of game. And yeah, there's still holes in our game for sure, but that's to be expected after you play the way we did the first few games. So we'll start with I know Dylan may not see it the right way, so we'll start with you on what you
Well,
saw.
I think there's some truth to that and some not truth to that. I mean, that's the same system we always run. There was no adjustments there. It's just the same system. It's just our players played better, and honestly, Winnipeg played pretty bad. So, yeah, okay. So we didn't turn over the puck on the blue line, so we didn't give up odd man rushes. But the moment that comes back, we're going to have the same problems in terms of odd man rushes. I mean, we had that last year. We'll have that again this year. So I'm definitely not glowing about Green's performance. That's for sure. He got the guys together, though. They played harder. They played better. So that was good. But I'm not going to sit here and say he made system adjustments because it's just completely false. And then I have some problems. Like I have a problem with Beagle's play. Well, let's start with the good. I mean, the forwards are starting to help again on defense, which is huge. And I'm super happy to see that they're helping us exit the zone.
Oh,
That makes a massive difference, and you notice it right away. I mean, we don't get trapped in our end for 10 minutes last night. So that's huge adjustment. We need to keep doing that. It's probably the most important thing. But I have a huge concern about Beagle. Mott is just the only reason Beagle, Roussel, and Mott is working is because Mott's just completely carrying that line and driving that line. If he wasn't on that line, they would look horrible. They would get hammered in their zone. I don't know what's with Beagle. He had one good game against Ottawa where he looked pretty quick. Other than
yeah,
that, it's been questionable at best for him. And
fair
then
enough.
there's the Schmidt and Myers pairing, last two games, which have been just horrible. Schmidt had a hard time with Edler. Now he's having a hard time with Myers. They had to switch some sides. They hope that would work. Now that's having a hard time. We'll get into that more later. But I mean, the Schmidt and Myers pairing was they were on the ice for every chance against. They were by far our worst pairing. The other two pairings looked great, honestly, but they need to work that out. I mean, I don't know what you do about Schmidt, but
I'll interject you 1 second there. Um, Okay, but again, like I said, it's not like Demko had to stand on his head at all that game.
but just because the other team didn't execute on your mistakes doesn't mean a different team won't. I mean, and you know what? They had the goal opportunity. They had the opportunity where it was tipped and they hit the post. They had the opportunity where Demko did make one big save where he slid across. But they also turned the puck over like 4 or 5 times where a good team should have got a good chance out of it. It's just Winnipeg played poorly. Those first two periods, the Myers Schmidt pairing turned over the puck consistently, and they just didn't execute. Like I was not impressed with Winnipeg at all last night. They looked horrible.
Okay, I still don't see it that way. there's four guys. There's three defensive pairings. Two of them are doing good right now. So then, in my opinion, I think you just like leave them and let them figure it out because I don't want to mess with the other two pairings. They look good.
Well, we're gonna talk about this later. I don't want to go into this yet
Well,
because this is
okay.
much different than the recap. There's other things to talk about in terms of
Okay,
recap.
yeah.
We have that. We'll go into that after when you're because you have a note on that.
Yeah.
And we'll talk
Yeah.
about that at the end.
Okay.
I don't know. I kind of was on the same line of thinking as Dylan. Not overly impressed by our performance. I think we went out there and we continued to bring that momentum over from Ottawa, which is what I was hoping and expecting from the team at the very least, to continue to keep playing that style of hockey as we were going into an actual competitive lineup here. But yeah, I don't know. I think we'll see what the rest of the games look like. But from watching Ottawa and those games leading into this Winnipeg game, it's just kind of the same. I don't think it's much of a sample size. I think we're just kind of, using these last couple games to boost our confidence.
Can I ask you a question last night? Or a question?
Yeah.
What were we watching last night? I just don't see it.
I don't know. I mean, all I saw was our lotto line was doing exactly what, once again, I'm expecting them to do, and creating opportunities, creating those chances. And at the end of the day, I don't know. It's not like we're playing overly great hockey. We're still keeping that confidence going. Winnipeg's a good team, but I'll kind of go into this a little bit later. We need to pump the brakes still.
For sure. Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think it's unreasonable to sit here and say, okay, we think the team played well except for Beagle, Schmidt, Myers, and we have thought they all played bad. I mean, that's 3 players at 18 skaters. That's not an unreasonable take. We won the game. I thought we were pretty good, but those 3 players are a big concern, especially when you're paying those guys almost $16 million a year. Yeah, that's a concern. They should be better.
I think maybe going into the game, I must have had different expectations because I still expected to see a really terrible team, and I didn't. So I was happy, basically. I didn't have many expectations. So maybe that was why I saw what I saw. I don't know what your guys' expectations were, but, I didn't expect to see the bubble team all over again. Like, it's not going to happen.
I can see, this is the problem, Colin. I can see us rolling into Montreal for the next 2 games, which is a good team, and having similar results as to last time easily because we could revert back easily. If the forwards stop coming back and helping and it puts pressure back on the defense, we'll be back to square one. And the only way, if the forwards stop doing that, the only way we won't have massive problems is if every single defenseman plays phenomenally.
That's fair. One more thing I did want to say is I didn't mean there's no system in place. I mean, it was finally executed yesterday. That's what I meant.
I know, but it's the same system we were playing. It's just we didn't make mistakes that I think we're going to continue to make. I have nothing that makes me believe. It was one game where we didn't make that mistake over and over on the other team's offensive blue line. We made it a couple times. Hughes one time made the mistake, got back and stopped it. The other time gave up a breakaway. Schmidt and Myers, luckily, they didn't make their mistakes on the offensive blue line. They made it in their own defensive end, whether that's better or not. I mean, Myers threw the puck right into the slot at one point. It's just like, I don't know, man.
I guess, I was going to say is like, now I almost lost my train of thought there. Yeah, never mind. I guess I don't have it. I lost it.
I think you give Schmidt and Myers more time. I do. I think you need to. You said 15 games, so I'm not gonna attack you there, but they need more time because their defense looked pretty good, and I don't want to mess it up too much. But yeah, Winnipeg maybe didn't play their best game, but well, I still think we played a lot better. So it's not like we played like a crappy game and Winnipeg just played so horrible. Like that wasn't the case. So go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I finally found my thought. I was gonna say too is this is also one of the few instances where we're getting a 1 game in and out versus a team, and we're not seeing a 3-game series against an actual competitive hockey team that's looking like one of the top contenders in our division. And they're missing one of their top 6 forwards, which could be a key component to their team. Losing Laine and not having Dubois or Luc Dubois in their lineup, he might end up being their top 1, or top 2 centerman. So the next time we play them, it could be a whole different lineup, whole different team. just because they're both disgruntled players doesn't mean they're not talented and could have changed the course of that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point right there.
Like, did you like Winnipeg's play at all last night, Colin? Because I didn't.
Not saying I liked it, but I noticed we did a lot of good things to counter what they potentially would usually do. You know, I thought what I saw was I didn't see a bad Canucks team take advantage of a bad Winnipeg team. I saw a structured Canucks team play their game. And yeah, Winnipeg didn't have their game, but still, like, that's good enough for me in situations like this. I mean, again, considering where we were a week ago to last night, I think every Canucks fan on the planet will take it. It's something to build off of. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, yeah, we're back. No, that's not what I mean at all. I'm not saying that one bit. Saying
Yeah,
given my expectations currently, I'm happy.
Fair enough.
That's all I'm saying, yeah.
I can understand that.
Yeah, that's all I mean by that. But we'll play Montreal and Toronto next, so we'll see. Like if we can look like that versus Montreal and Toronto, we have something.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this back-to-back against Montreal Monday, Tuesday. It's just gonna be fun. Like this is finally a good measuring stick for our team. 2 games before we go into Toronto, back-to-back against a really, really good team, probably the best team in our division, who already smoked us.
Yeah, no, you know what's ridiculous is how quickly Montreal's turned it around in comparison to us, kind of. Like, you got to think about it. I mean, it's early in the season, like, it's on a regular season, like any, we're playing all the Canadian teams. Some of them aren't very good, so it's different. I don't think Montreal does as nearly as well as they are if we're not in the Canadian division, but it is kind of insane how quickly they turn their team around, to be honest. Because last year, like,
GM.
I think Toronto and Montreal are definitely taking advantage of this only basically playing Toronto, Western Conference teams right now.
Toronto's still not that good, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll talk about that a little later too.
Okay.
But no, I mean, I was going to say is like, yeah, I mean, it'll be a good measuring stick, but I also like that Toronto gets like, I swear, a 10-game or a 7-day stretch before they play us between their last series against Edmonton. So they get a nice.
I want to talk about that though.
I swear.
I want to talk about that. That sounds good because Calgary already got one, and some teams get one, and we never get one in the season. It sounds good, but I was curious about it, so I went to see if ours was in the schedule, and no, we just play really dense hockey like we are all the way to the end of the season, and these other teams are getting this break, so that means they're going to have to fill in these 3 to 4 games in there. So I don't know if that actually is an advantage because it sounds good now, but it's going to be really bad in like March.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean it's going to be really bad?
Like, for who?
For us? For us?
For the other team, because they're going to have they're getting these 7-8 day breaks. Like Calgary got that 8-day break. And now we played 4 or 5 games in that time. Well, they got to fit that into the schedule. And it's not like our schedule isn't just as compact. So they're going to have to squeeze in 4 extra games in March.
Why?
April.
How come we don't get that? I didn't even know that was a thing.
I don't know, but I don't think I want it. I actually think we have the advantage.
That's fair. I agree, but of course we don't.
Probably
get it.
just
typical.
Because of geographical reasons.
Probably because of the longest cap restructure.
But you think about it, you throw the scenario in when now let's say Calgary missed those games, and now let's say Calgary has to go into 10 days of COVID protocol, and they miss 4 or 5 more. I mean, the end of their year is just going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, that could definitely work in our favor. It really could. That's not a bad point, actually. I don't disagree with that. While we were talking about the Canadian division, I got sidetracked.
Yeah, pretty much. Just
okay.
Essentially, I guess we were talking about just how playing Montreal and Toronto next, and we were saying how they get
Montreal
their bye week before they play us.
Yeah. Did you want to touch on that Toronto thing now or later?
That'll be part of my final say.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, no worries.
Okay, no worries. That's fine. Yeah, but no, there's not much else to decipher on last night's game. It's mostly just one of those things where you just bring momentum into the next series. But we can do our segment if you want.
Well, I want to bring up one more thing then, because I want to talk about Schmidt Myers now. We'll go in depth about that.
Oh, okay. So, okay.
Okay, Schmidt had troubles with Edler. And now he hasn't found a place on the right side that works with anybody. So now they tried to switch him to the left side and try him with Myers. And that's not working. And First of all, it's starting to make me sour on Schmidt. What I'm seeing, I said I'd give him 15 games. The problem is you could see how it can work for Schmidt, but like also he does just a lot of really horrible things, and I really hope he stops. But I don't know. I'm starting to worry. And then the big problem that I have with this whole thing is, in order to get Schmidt to the left side, you have to boot Juolevi out of the lineup, who honestly has played better this year than both Schmidt and Myers. I'm not like I'm 100% comfortable saying I think Juolevi is a better defenseman than Tyler Myers. I just don't think Myers is very good. I actually think he sucks. And Juolevi looked good. I think he's better than Myers. I think the only reason, if you took away these guys' salaries, Myers would be out of the lineup. I mean, he's just not a top 6 defenseman. Honestly, he looks horrible. She booted this young guy out that you're trying to develop, who's played better, out of the lineup to try to accommodate for these guys you're paying a bunch of money. And you pair them together, 13 million bucks on the ice, look horrible. You've stunted the development of one of your young defensemen. I mean, it's just getting ridiculous, man. I'm not even sure. Like, based off what I've seen this season, if you just like took away the names of the players, I would tell you Juolevi's better than Schmidt. There's no doubt in my mind. I'd tell you he's better than Myers. So I don't know. At some point here, I think they need to put Schmidt back to the right side and put Juolevi with Myers. I mean, or with Schmidt. This is getting ridiculous.
Okay, one thing I'll say is I'm not saying Myers is a good defensive defenseman at all. So don't feel like I'm saying that. But I do feel like you completely overblow him. No, hold up. I think you can overblow him. I do. If you sit there and continuously say, defend Edler, not this year, but years past, the way Edler plays, there's similarities defensively, and you don't mention that, and that doesn't make sense in my mind. That's all I'm saying there.
Myers makes like 4 times the mistakes.
But... Dude, there was times in the last couple seasons where Edler went out there without a head on his shoulders. Seriously, he looked that bad at times. I think you have this thing against Myers because I just do. That's my gut feeling.
I don't know. I've always been a Myers, a bit of a fanboy and advocate, and I've also been
I'm in the middle.
Someone who doesn't exactly appreciate Edler's game. But at the same time, I almost wanted to make that where I was wrong segment be about Tyler Myers because to me, it's just, there's so many times, like Dylan says, where it's just like the simple play, the basic play at either blue line, just make it, man. And like, I don't know why this is so hard. And like you said, it's maybe not fair to not go after someone like Edler if you're going to hold him to that standard. But once again, kind of like what Dylan says, you take away the salary cap hits, like you're almost, I don't know. But you're not having the best defensive lineup out there right now, and it's tough because
Myers. They won't.
Do you guys not think though that Juolevi has been way better than Myers this year?
I agree. They should scratch Myers, but they're not going to.
It's so stupid because not only is it just dumb in terms of a hockey standpoint, but this is your young defenseman you should be wanting to develop, who's going to be around for years. He's on the upside of his like time. He's not like Myers where he's declining. Like, it's just so stupid, man.
I know. I agree. I honestly look at this line. How do you get Juolevi in there? What do you do with them at this point? You can't just not play him all year.
I know. But they're not going to. They're going to scratch Juolevi and totally ruin his development to try to prove that they're right to Francesco Aquilini because they signed $12 million worth of shit defenseman.
You know, actually, that could be a hot take about Juolevi right there at the end. That could be one. Seriously, it could be. Because what do you do like with this lineup? You can't take Chatfield out. Ben's look great.
Well, he's a left side, so
I know
you have to take one of Hughes, Edler, or Schmidt out, or you have to shift Schmidt back.
Well, they're not going to take Schmidt out.
Here's what I'm saying. He's been better than both. They're not going to take Schmidt out. You're right. But you better not take out Chatfield because he's been the only one who's been able to play with Edler. And you're not going to take out Ben because he's been the only one who can play with Hughes. You have to shift Schmidt back. Or you can take Schmidt out. Because what happened is, when did we see Tyler Myers have a little bit of success this year? It's when Juolevi played with him and covered his ass. So you have to play Juolevi with one of Myers or Schmidt to help him. But how fucking retarded is it that we're now at the point where we pay all these bad defensemen millions of dollars and we We don't use them to help our young defensemen. We bring in our young defensemen to settle them down.
That's so true.
Well,
honestly, that's so
just with
true.
Myers, yeah, with Myers, that's true.
Edler,
No, Edler
Schmidt.
too, and almost
Yeah. Well, this year, yes, Edler. This year,
Jordy
sure,
Ben's
it's
the
been
only
notable.
veteran that comes in and sets the tone and is like, "Calm down, boys." Like,
yeah, that's
and
fair.
everyone lambasted his signing. So
Jaylee Chatfield comes in and like completely covers for Edler constantly, which is great. That's what you want with Edler, but that's the only guy who could do it. Some rookie making like $700K. Levy was the only person who could cover for Myers. Any other veteran looks just as stupid as Myers does.
I was gonna say too, like, I don't know, this kind of is making me think back to watching Moneyball and the whole lefty versus righty argument. Why are we sitting here in the NHL at this level of ability and players and still doing left-hand shot and right-hand shot? Like, are you telling me that these players don't have the ability to go on their offhand, even though it should
Have you
almost
played
be
sports on your offhand before?
Yes, I played my whole defensive career on my offhand. That's why I'm just like, I
That
don't
would be
understand.
hard. I don't know. I'm just asking a question. I have no idea. But
Especially if you're an offensive-minded player, like someone like Schmidt, who cares? Put him on the right side and let him have the open shot. He's only going to want to dangle around with the puck a little more too, and it's just going to give him more open space and opportunity. I like you said, put him on the right side and put someone like Ulevy or someone in that position to just sit back and let him, hey, you're on your offhand, you're in your open wing, do your thing. We got you covered. And take a control of the top of the zone and just like you be the floater, do your thing. We've got your back covered. That's the same thing like we've been talking about. Myers needs to be doing that. But anyway.
Well, we've seen him on both sides and he's had the same problem on both sides. Like, it's not like we haven't seen it. We now know what it looks like on the left side and the right side.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he might be one in particular. I just mean in general. Like, we get stuck with, like, oh, he's a left-handed shot. We can't take him. It's like, well, okay, are you telling me the ice isn't the ice? You guys switch back and forth within shift, like 3 to 4 times in your defensive zone. So don't tell me you don't know how to play that side.
Yep.
You know what's going to happen the rest of the season? Levy's just going to come in when someone gets injured, and that's it. Yeah. He's not going to play the whole fucking year because Edler, or you can't scratch Edler. He's a veteran. You can't scratch Tyler.
Why would you scratch Edler? You don't want to. He's been good. It's not Edler, man. I'm sorry, but it's Schmidt or Myers. They are the problem.
He hasn't been okay. He hasn't. I wouldn't say he's been good, but he's been a problem. He hasn't been a problem.
Significantly better than those two.
Sure.
By a wide margin.
Sure, but they're not going to scratch Schmidt. They're not. I'm just saying.
But the point is, if you took Edler out, you don't solve our problem.
I know.
If you took out one of Schmidt or Myers, you could potentially solidify this defense.
They're not going to take them out, though. That's what I'm saying.
I don't care. They should. That means they're bad and should be fired. They've done a bad job here with this defense to the point where now they're so willing to you said this about your Twitter guy there today, Colin. He's so willing to double down on his bad opinion. Well, yeah. Jim Benning and Travis Green are so willing to double down on these bad signings that they will stunt the development of our 22-year-old upcoming defense. It is just the same thing. It's bad. It should be fireable, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, at the end of the day, if this leads to a situation where you're looking like, I mean, I know this may not be even close to an example because I've never watched him that much, but a Victor Mete who's already calling for a trade request, like if halfway through the season, Levy's like, okay, obviously I don't have a spot here, get rid of me, then you're going to be in a really tight spot, especially when maybe we'll use this as a segue into our right versus wrong. Mm-hmm. People start to realize how good Ulevy is. So, I mean, you and I, us three might be the only few.
You know what's really bad about the situation is if he does take that, the meeting has been upgraded. Okay, cool.
Cool.
If he does take that, let's say he gets scratched, so you're request to trade. That's a double whammy against us because 1, we don't get to see what he becomes, and 2, he hasn't played enough to prove he has high value.
Yeah.
So it's just a lose-lose situation if you don't play him. So I think what they got to scratch Myers. Who cares? People in Vancouver, everyone already hates you anyways, besides me. scratch Myers and just play with Levy. I don't know. They're not going to, but I don't know what else they could do.
I swear to God, if we end up with if Myers and Schmidt don't improve, and I already know what Myers is, but if Schmidt's just as bad as Myers, and we have $13 million worth of this, I just can't. I will lose it. That's so bad for years to come. $13 million, and this would just be. It would be worse than everything else. It would be worse than the Eriksson thing. It'd be worse than the Beagle Roussel Eriksson combo. It would just be the worst.
Well, I'm not going to include Schmidt in that conversation yet.
If he doesn't improve,
well, I don't know.
At the end
it's
of the day,
hypothetical, but
if he's not scratched from our lineup halfway through the season, then I won't put him on Louis Eriksson's pedestal. But I do know what you mean. It's tough to look at it, especially when people were, making the argument of if that trade was oversell or all these little things, even though, whatever. Yeah, it's definitely going to be looked under the microscope, and especially we like to be looking at Jim Benning and.
When you're making $6 million a year, you got to play like good, and he's playing 100%. Bad.
And it's just like to the point that we were saying in the group chat last night. It's like we hold Myers and Schmidt to a higher standard. That's just all it is. It doesn't matter if they're only making these handful of little plays. It's like the simple parts of your game we hold to a much higher standard based on how much you make and how much we've given up to get you and sacrifice, essentially.
One thing I do want to comment on is that guy in the large cast was commenting on when you put Myers in an actual defensive situation, which on our team he hasn't been in a lot of, he actually plays better. And that's true. That is true. So, I mean...
And to that point, though, the problem is that his mind is never thinking, how do I make the proper defensive play here? Honestly. And that is the issue. Every time it's like, okay, where is the opportunity for me to create space? And it's almost always looking up ice. And it's always looking at an offensive situation, or it's like, here, you're 2 feet away from me. Here, you take the puck. I don't want it. I'll go figure out something else. Or when he's playing that
style, he takes penalties. And if you put him with someone who is good, like if you were going to put Tyler Myers and Juolevi together and say Juolevi be the offensive guy and Myers be the defensive guy, which would probably be the right call, honestly, if you look at our defense. The problem is, he's horrible on a 2-on-1. I mean, that guy is just non-existent on a 2-on-1. And he tries, I'll give him that. And it's not like it's horrible, but he just ends up going over the line and taking a dumb penalty so often. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been harping on this all year, and this is why I've kind of been on Colin's side about questioning the coaching staff, is because like how do you have a guy who's like 175 feet long and you can't even intercept the 2-on-1? Like literally all you got to do, take the pass and then lay down, just lay there. Like honestly, there's no much more mathematical to that. And
it's crazy how many defensemen on our team play 2-on-1s wrong. I mean, it's like one of the things even last year that was noticeable. You have Edler and Tanev playing it right. Hughes is just good enough that he could, bat the puck out of midair, for fuck's sakes. But everyone else playing it wrong. Ben has actually been really good. Schmidt played one very well last night. I'll give him that. But here's my problem. And like to exactly the point you just made. How is the coaching not addressing that? And it's not just that part of it. It's every aspect of the game. Like we never see players improve. It's like they just let them go with their natural instincts and don't make any adjustments ever to just even the small parts of their game.
Well, the large cast guys countered that though. They also said that Green is like the type of coach who has a system and Gallant isn't, and that's why they wouldn't be a good fit. I'm not saying there's validity to what he said.
Yeah, I think they're very underestimating Gallant's system, but just let's talk about Green. Let's focus on Green right now, and let's just if he was this great system guy, it doesn't matter. Why is he not making any adjustments to anything players doing? Like, what was that? And this is my point. I've always harped on Horvat, and you saw it last night. It was impossible to miss his forechecking. Then that penalty, what was he trying to do? What is that? Like, why are you're never going to get the puck that way, first of all. You're doing fuck all, and then you take a penalty. Like, it's a horrible play. It's like watch him and then watch Hoglander. And Hoglander's forechecking the right way, and Horvat's like floating around with his stick out, like, oh, look at me. Like, it's just useless. I don't get it. Anyone explain what he was trying to do?
I mean, it was one tiny little aspect of a game where a player may have had a brain fart. I'm not going to analyze the crap.
But that's how he always forechecks. He sticks his stick out and he comes around and he kind of hugs the guy, and then the guy passes off and he skates back.
I saw that play. That was a weak call. The guy was barely moving his feet. It was he shouldn't have put his arm in that situation, but that was a weak call.
Dumb call or not, though, that's how he forechecks all fucking game. It's never gonna get the puck. It's this little, like, I'm kind of hugging this guy. Meanwhile, the guy passes it off, no problem.
Yeah,
like Horvat's not there.
He's got to make.
Well,
why? We're talking about it for years.
This is honestly, and this is actually kind of funny because we were talking about going back and listening to old pods and making sure that we kind of know what we're doing. And one thing that I will say is that this is something Dylan's been harping on for a long time, is we need to put somebody with Bo Horvat, can't speak, to actually create those offensive opportunities, because he's not a good forechecker. And you know, at times we had suggested bringing in someone like Jake Virtanen to do that. Obviously, that's not his game either. And Hoglander's becoming the perfect fit for that position. Yeah. And it's just that point. It's, once again, when you see something work, like, just make sure the guys realize what's going on. Like, hey, Bo, this is your role here in this play. Hoglander, you're taking the pressure point. Like, just the simple things that your coach should be able to sit down with you and look at a game and just analyze these little aspects, that it's like, these 7 things, if we had done differently in the game, this is a whole different game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, I agree.
I also want to point out one more thing. Okay, you go.
Okay. Oh, I was just gonna say, you know what, my final little word on this part about Travis Green, because another thing, I was almost gonna make that my segment, but I mean, once again, these guys arguing that Travis Green is this system-based coach who's got it all figured out. I honestly would make the argument that, like, I love him and I think that he's worked out so far. But if you want to look at just resume, and you want to look at just what he's done in his career, I'd almost argue that he's one of the most overrated coaches in the NHL right now. Just based on, honestly, his success has come from taking over the Portland Winterhawks, who between Nick Patan, Brandon Leipsic, and like one other guy put up 350 points in 1 year. Like, yeah, that's hard to lose when you take over a team like that, and then go to Utica and run us to, missing playoffs. So I don't know. I never really knew much about him. I never really knew what the deal was, except for he was our minor league coach. So
yeah.
I mean,
it's not always player execution either. It's not always player execution either. Lack of, therefore, maybe early in the season, it's not always the case. Can't always just go to player execution. Like, that's what not calling them out or anything. It's just like countering. I don't think that a lot of their counters were about player execution. It's like, it's not always like, it's a coach too sometimes, you know?
Well, and they want to go ahead, Dylan. Sorry,
there's an inherent problem with the system when every time a player makes a mistake, it ends up with an odd man rush the opposite way. And that is way too often the problem with Travis's system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was going to say, to their point, or their argument is, this guy's working with such a young lineup that it's so hard to do this. It's like, yes, but we've seen this work in other places. And to that point, this is such a young coaching staff. Like, these guys aren't that far removed from the game. Same with Bumgarner, same with Travis Green. Like, they're still developing. At the end of the day, this may not be the place where they win. They might have a lot of success down the road, but they're still young as well. So
yeah, that's true. Shall we do our segments?
Or go into our right versus wrong?
Well, hold on. Dylan took a big grasp away there.
There was one more thing I was going to say. I can't remember now. I'll circle back.
Okay. So we're going to do a new segment, or good and bad. We'll start with Austin here. What's your good take from?
No. Okay. I wanted to point out something that was just so bad in the game. We were on the power play. The first unit was on.
It's either Myers or it's either Myers or Horvat who did it.
No. It was a group effort. So the first unit power play was on the ice, and there was a point in the power play where all 5 players were either in line with or behind the net. All 5 of them. There's no one on the other side of the offensive zone. It was just 5 guys crowded. The puck was like nowhere near any of them either. It was out in the slot area. They're all 5 right at that net there behind it. It was unbelievable.
I didn't catch that. That's probably on Twitter or something like that. But
Quinn Hughes was just good enough to skate back and loop back. It was hilarious.
I didn't see that. Anyways.
All right.
Awesome. Take her off.
Right versus wrong, or whatever we want to call this segment. We'll figure it out. 17 episodes down the road.
Good, bad, right, wrong, horrible,
Good, bad,
shitty,
and
awesome.
ugly.
So we could do perfect and shit.
Yeah. Well, my wrong take, I'll start with that to humble it down, is that
everything?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything thus far. It was hard to find a right take, but no, I mean, simply my pointing out that replacing somebody like Tanev with someone like Travis Hominick, obviously not quite the formula, not quite exactly how I had it envisioned. Although I will say it's not like he played the worst hockey in our defensive structure, as we keep talking about this, 12 games into the season. But it's obviously just that clear that Chris Tanev has got these defensive skills honed in, and his defensive game is that much more elevated than the average lockdown, shutdown defenseman. At the same time, if you want to look at value, that's a whole different argument, but I'll bite it and I'll take it that the Calgary Flames are looking a little bit better with him on their team than we are without him.
Okay. Yep.
And I guess my right take, I don't even know what it was, or if there was one. Oh yeah, it was Ulevy. Talked about that a lot, but same thing. It's one of those tough ones though, because he's getting removed from the lineup, that people will say the same thing, that, oh, well, he's obviously not doing that well because he's not there. But it's like, just watch, do the eye test, see what he's doing. And like we've already kind of harped on a bit, I won't go too much into it, but he's stabilizing. Can't even speak this morning. I'm getting that messed up with this. But we need to just like focus on what he can do, take our time. And like you said, hopefully we don't disgruntle him this season. The only thing I see is down the road is that he's ready to fill in and step in and take over Edler's spot next year when his contract expires. Doesn't mean that we could have that much more patience, or he'll have that much more patience with us, because we've been pretty patient. But I think he's definitely got a spot in our top 4, without a doubt. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out. Maybe he'll get his shot, maybe he won't. But I think we need to, a lot of us Canuck fans need to eat our words on Ulevy.
And a lot of them won't, no matter what. You can win a Norris Trophy and it's luck. We'll go to Dylan here. Your turn.
Okay, did Austin put him in the chat?
Well, you could do your own. You could do your own.
I thought we were supposed to go off this script. I'm sorry, guys.
No, guys.
I just threw them out there as some examples for y'all in case you didn't look into it.
Oh, okay.
But your right one was our top.
I want to say my right one. I do have one written down here. Let me just pull it up. And so I said, where is it? I said, if Holtby's good but not great, and if Demko's good but not great, I can see a world where we give up a lot of goals this year. That's a quote from me in the preseason pod. I think we're seeing that.
So far, yeah.
And
my bad take.
Your bad take. I had it. If you need a reminder.
Yeah, I was one really obvious bad one. What was that one again?
It was, you said that Hoglander needed to start in the AHL.
Oh, yeah.
He needed some time to develop before he'd be ready for our lineup.
Yeah, that was a bad take. That was a really bad take.
All right, I'll go here. My good take was Hoglander, because in the preseason pod, I forgot I even talked about him, but I'm the one who said that I think he could come in and be ready, and you squashed that. So, you just kidding. I'm not.
It sounded like you were watching tons of Hoglander film before you made that take.
Yeah, he was just deep in watching the raw footage.
You 50-50 rolled the dice on that good take.
Oh, yeah, I read some stuff too, but yeah, fair enough. My bad one was for Tannen, obviously, because, yeah. I don't even need to.
Well, why don't you go into a little more elaboration of what about?
I don't want to talk about Vertanen anymore.
Yeah, you were really big on Vertanen. Surprise performance.
as a player, get called out by your own general manager like that, and then show up like this. Come on. Oh, I don't even
We're
want to
gonna
talk
be
about
a
it.
dynasty by
To-
2023, though,
to,
right?
to
I'm not
clarify,
saying something.
Colin said that Vertanen would be the perfect fit for
I
the
didn't say
top line.
perfect. I said I want to see him. I want to see him up there.
I wrote it
Hey,
down verbatim.
no. I want
I was
Yes, you
evidence
did.
listening
to
to
I
support
the
it.
listened to it.
I
podcast.
didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I said
Colin.
he could work. I want to see him up there. I did not say he would for sure be a perfect fit. I didn't say
You
that.
didn't say he would for sure be a perfect fit. You
Well, that's
said
what
he
you
would
just
be a
said.
perfect fit.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you said
I said
with
see him get that chance
all-
up there, and I think he could flourish. That's what I said.
you
We
go
listened to
listen
the
to the
pod.
pods. You
I
listen to
listened
the
to it
pods. You
too.
clearly admitted you don't listen
Just
to the
remember,
pods,
I'm
so
never
we'll
wrong with
see.
anything. Okay. No, I'm not wrong. I'm not. It's Vertanen's fault. It's not my fault. Okay. Yes, fine. Yes, I said that. Sure. Okay. Congrats. Why don't you go fucking? Oh, good. Okay, so we'll finish this off with a hot tag segment. Sure, everyone knows what a hot take is. I hope so, at least. So we'll start with Austin again.
Oh, back to me.
Yeah, we'll go back.
All
to
right. Well, I guess we'll call this just the Hockey Hours hot take.
I like that.
But
Put in the Instagram too.
I don't even really know if this is much of a hot take. Is more of like I was thinking about my final word to send this off. But once again, I think we just need to pump the brakes on this whole season. It's been kind of a weird one. I know it's tough because it's shortened, and we want to look at 10 games in. We're already so far along into the season. We want to evaluate and look at these teams, but even though I'm one of the biggest, skeptics and people who look at these things, it's just we got to pump the brakes. I was just kind of looking at our division as a whole. Obviously, some teams like Calgary aren't exactly where I expected them at the beginning of the season. Some teams like Winnipeg aren't. But then even looking into teams like Toronto, it's tough for me to even give them this pedestal. Like Colin has kind of talked about quite a bit, is like they're still not that good of a team. If we still just dissect the fact that we're still like only playing 3 to 4 teams thus far into the season, it's like, great. We had a great run against Ottawa. If we hadn't, we would be looking so bad right now, and we'd be sitting at the bottom of our division. And I mean, the only reason why I had to pump the brakes a bit on Toronto is that Ottawa's only win is actually to Toronto. And every single one of Toronto's wins thus far is essentially a 1-goal game, if not Mitch Marner scoring an empty netter. So let's just pump the brakes a little bit on where we're looking at these teams and evaluating them. Obviously, we're trying to, because we're back into hockey season and it's fun, but it's just tough. We got to pump the brakes a little bit on all these teams.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I'll go next because I don't want Dylan to steal mine because I don't really have one. I'm going to say Hoglander wins the Calder this year, which I don't think he will, but that's why it's called a hot take. Because it's potentially, it could happen. I don't think it will, but it could happen.
So. Now, this is where you would probably make the argument for that, Colin. Yeah. Not just, I don't know, maybe one day it's.
I don't think it'll happen, but.
And then
if it does happen, I'm going to take full.
You say at the end of the year, he's going to be putting this up on the freaking billboards.
One thing is, it's a hot take, but I do think people need to relax with Hoglander. I'm not saying that he's just because you win the Calder doesn't mean you're going to be this amazing player, but he's not Pettersson. You know, he's not Hughes, even though Hughes is a defenseman. People need to relax a bit, okay? He's going to be a good player. I could see him being another Brad Marchand type player, but people are like, oh my God, he's another super rookie, blah, blah. He's not, okay? He's a good player, but I think we all need to chill on him because he's just simply not going to be a franchise player. He won't be. Maybe he will. I hope he will be, but I don't see it that way. I see him as a good top 6 guy who can help it fill in Bo's line, but I think that's good enough for a Calder trophy potentially, is what I'm saying.
Great fit for our lineup and what we needed. Really great fit.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I think it's a bad time for hot takes. I mean, we've made a lot in the past that I felt were like for sure locks, but no one was talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say that 2 years from now, we're going to be talking about the dead weight on defense with the Schmidt and Myers contracts.
Okay. Well, Myers, that's not a hot take, really. That's Schmidt is.
But the combination of the two being over $12 million of cap hit
Okay.
is going to be the conversation of how do
That's
we
fair.
deal with that?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, since I kind of missed the boat on actually taking a hot take, I was more going with my final say. I will say that with that, pumping the brakes on these teams so far, that the Canucks are still going to easily make playoffs. I'd say that they're going to get in the third seed, at least, in my opinion.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, I can't say they're going to be 1 or 2 because some of those teams are going to battle it out and take advantage. But
yeah, I want to ask you guys,
missing.
Where do you guys think, like, Austin kind of told us, but how do you guys see the other teams? And like, where do we sit amongst them in quality of play? Do you guys think?
I like third place. I think that's good. Edmonton sucks unless McDavid gets 400 goals a game. Calgary is better. Toronto. I don't even think Toronto's a better team, but they're gonna do good in this division because of the matchups, basically. But yeah, I think it goes Calgary, Toronto. Or sorry, no, my bad. I'm completely saying what I'm trying to say here. I think we'll finish ahead of Toronto. My bad. Montreal is the team I meant to say there. It'll go Montreal / Calgary. I don't know who finishes first. I think Calgary's a better team, but it doesn't mean they're going to finish first. And then we'll finish ahead of Toronto. I think Toronto's overrated. That's how I see it happening.
Yeah, I think Montreal and Calgary are the best teams.
Yeah.
I think that Toronto is better than us. I see actually a lot of the similarities between us and Toronto now. I mean, we lost some of our strengths I previously thought we had over them with some good defensemen and penalty killing and goaltending. So I think they're a better team than us, and I think we're better than Edmonton and Ottawa for sure. And I think us and Winnipeg is probably the battle for 4th and 5th place.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think the same. The one actually I've kind of backtracking a bit on is Calgary. I do like their lineup. I guess to me their defensive game has not shown so much. I've only watched a few games recently, but I'm starting to notice their bottom 4 is really kind of just lacking. Kind of like
I
ours
agree.
has been at
Markstrom
times.
have been really bad so far. I agree.
Just guys do shout outs.
I was more looking at like the Nikita Nesterovs and the friggin' like Kylington or whoever else they have on there. Killington, yeah. So I don't know. I just some of the things that we harp on our big players for, they're lacking in those scenarios too. So
that's true.
But otherwise, Montreal, 100%. They're right up there. Toronto will probably still keep it competitive. They've got a good run in front of us now, but yeah.
Calgary's weird too, because they've been bad with Riddick in. Markstrom's saving their bacon. Offense, other than the top line, has kind of dried up. But I think when I watch them, I think they're still good. I think that their problems are easily sortable, or however you want to put it.
Yeah,
solvable.
That's a good point because at the end of the day, they run such a 4-line system that they just continue to pick up for each other. And that's been the problem with us lately. Now that we are actually running our lines a little properly with more cohesion, we can pick up some of the mistakes for each other.
I also don't know if I love what they're doing with their lineup in terms of forwards, where, previously in previous years, you had the Monahan Gaudreau line with Person. So right now I can't, who are they using there? Can't remember. But then you have right now, they're using in the second line, Lindholm, Tkachuk, and Mangiapane. And then the third line is centered by Backlund. And they're kind of using that as a shutdown. But they have 2 offensive lines. They play a whole bunch. I don't love actually doing that. I prefer when they stack their talent, put Lindholm back on the first line, have Backlund centering Tkachuk and Mangiapane, and use that more as a matchup lineup. I think they're a better team that way.
Yeah, I agree. I don't watch a lot of Calgary, so it's really hard for me to comment in depth on them. Where did my screen thing go? Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think those are pretty good hot takes, to be honest. Not bad. We're at 11 here, so
we're at our hour. That's the hockey hour.
Yeah,
it is. We are the hockey hour.
We're out of time.
Colin, I would like to get a tastefully nude photo of you for my background, where like what we'll do is I'll sit in such a way that it covers your junk with my head,
Oh
and
my
you could be like
God.
laying sideways for my background.
You know,
I
I
don't
do
know if you
that.
could make that work,
I
but
would do that, but this is the internet, so I'm not gonna do that.
okay.
It's okay. We'll just Photoshop a hockey hour logo on top of it, and it'll be good.
Yeah,
Oh
there we go.
God.
What can we get? Can we find a photo of someone in that position and then
Just,
put Colin's face on?
Oh God.
that,
Oh my
that'll
God.
that'll be your project for next pod.
That's
There,
you.
Joe.
You can do that. That's you can focus on that, right? How about that? Huh.
All
All
right.
right. Well, I think we're gonna cut it here. I don't know when our next episode will be, but
Probably never. This is probably the last one. This will be when we get canceled. This is
we'll give
about
it
it.
another week. How about that? We'll try to go each week. I think that's fair. Austin has to spend 200 hours making an Instagram post, so
Yeah, I mean, and when I'll make sure I submit my schedule 40 days in advance so we can maybe line up a Tuesday night. That'll work.
Oh, that's funny. I don't do
But no,
weeknights.
But
Just
no,
kidding.
I mean, at the end of the day, like I like the kind of the system we've been going, trying to keep it to even after each series or after whatever, a couple games here and there, or finding little things
Yeah.
to do. So as long as there's stuff to talk about, we'll keep her going. But if
Oh,
there
I
ain't,
gotta go to the
then
bathroom. I gotta go to the
Hey,
bathroom.
well, that's a wrap.
that's it. That's it.
That's